Okay.
Just mute.
I was lucky to be over the holiday weekend. I was up in the White Mountains, and the colors were at their peak at that point. They were later than usual, and they were just perfect. Now, during the week, snow fell on the presidentials and changed the scene quite a bit. So that's how that goes. But while we were up there, we drove to Dixville Notch and took a look at the Balsams, which is one of the grand old hotels, white with the red roof and looking splendid from a distance, but sadly, presently unoccupied. And I wrote about the time back in the last century, when the artists loved to go up to the big hotels, and they would paint, and they would pay for their expenses by selling their paintings. So I called it White Mountain Art. The artists stayed in grand hotels, leaving in payment for their keep saleable oils or watercolors, where light flickers through lazy leaves, bounces off rocks and sheep or cows, gleams on waterfalls, and soars all unconfined to the mountaintops. Always something catches the eye in the foreground, a red coat or a dog. The trees are finely drawn and shadowed. You can tell weather by the clouds in skies of varied blues and grays. These pictures are easy to live with, small as postcards or too big to hang on parlor walls. They hide themselves, murky with dust in farmhouse auctions. Today, we point the lens at the mountains. Snow flocks the firs on high ridges. The alabaster peaks are carved crystal sharp by the cold blue air. Among the hardwoods, a smoldering fire of fall foliage lingers, beech, birch, and the last of the sugar maples, catching the eye in the foreground, framed by telephone poles, lettered in gold, is the sign of the Upcountry Saloon. Back in 2016, we had a very dry summer, and it was a much more lengthy drought than what we had in July this year. And I wrote about the fall colors that year. At first, we thought the lengthy drought would quench our usual fires of fall, and we would enter winter without our annual foliage spectacle. For many of our trees went brown as summer neared its torpid end, and leaves dropped searely on the ground. What else could this sad sight portend? Some say that trees can communicate by underground telegraphic systems. Perhaps they sent word to their forest mates that the time had come to show resistance. So our maples were able to condense their chromosomes and atoms, and flare up in a blinding last display of death-defying radiant patterns. And then I'll do one little short one, on the title of which is On October 12th. A cacophony of geese flew by, as drivers all used to do, honking vociferously in the streets of Lima, Peru. As we watched, they shifted formation, forming two separate V's, but maintaining their congregation with graceful and admirable ease. We knew where they were headed, though they were soon out of sight, bound for warm waters, determined to leave behind long wintry nights. And we applauded their foresight, well aware that their instinct was right.